Welcome to another episode of The Idiot, and today we will be delving into something that I consider to be very fascinating. This is something that has motivated me to stop being lazy and get some work done into all the ways of facing things that I'm really afraid of. This to me is a historic event encapsulated precisely by Jack Louis David. The painting, The Death of Socrates. This painting was finished in 1787 and was made during the neoclassical period of France. The person right in the center of this painting, old but quite muscular, was none other than Socrates himself. And the pose that he's making pays homage to the painting The School of Athens by Raffaello, which is very similar to what Plato was making in his painting. This shows the whole student teacher dynamic that is being conveyed. To the far left of the painting, you see a very old man solemnly looking down. This person is none other than Plato himself. Everything you see on the right can be seen as a projection of the memory of the death of his teacher, Socrates. The people you see on the far right, all curling down, crying, looking at Socrates, can be seen as his followers. And we see a person putting a palm in front of his head, giving a bow to Socrates, and very clearly, uncomfortably, about this whole event. Yet, this whole scenery of grieving, we see the man in the center, fearless, and almost everyone's sorrow is based around him. But why? You see, the person was not just passing any ordinary bowl, but was rather passing a vessel containing hemlock, and Socrates was convicted in Athenian court to drink it as means for him to die. Hemlock can be thought of as poison. Now, with this knowledge in mind, look at the central figure that is Socrates again. Normally, when someone is in the face of death, we see them scared, and normally they would be terrified. Yet over here, we see a person who is a lot more relaxed and is taking the vessel like it was something ordinary. There is not even an ounce of fear that that is there in the man's mannerisms. To explain more about the significance of this painting, I need to first explain to you the greatness of the person we are talking about. The most popularized story was that Socrates happened to be a part of this prophecy that was told by this woman who apparently was able to form connections with the god Apollo. One of Socrates' friends asked her who she thought was the wisest person, and she responded with Socrates. Now, Socrates, upon hearing this information, was astonished, but instantly got to work. He started going around town and talking to the smartest people he could meet. He talked with them, asked them a lot of questions, but realized something very trivial in the very end. If you ask the right questions to even the smartest people, there will be a point where they will just not know the answer. It might seem that they might know a lot, but what you think of as knowledge is false because beyond a certain point, they are just as clueless as anyone else. Now, here comes the most important discovery in the history of humanity, at least in the West, something known as the Socratic method. It is basically this way of extracting knowledge where you ask a series of questions to your interlocutor to seriously get to the bottom of things until you reach a point where the latter does not know the answer to your question. In this process, the amount of knowledge you will be gaining will be tremendous, but it comes with a catch. See, Socrates did this whole thing, this whole method, his entire life, and it caused many well established people to feel like their efforts to amass all this knowledge is insignificant because they have now realized that their understanding of things is not complete. Or to be exact, they're not quite sure of what they themselves are so well versed about. They're not quite sure of what they themselves are talking about because of the type of questions Socrates is posing at them. It hurt their feelings and made them incredibly annoyed. When this left Socrates to not have many friends, and society often got a very distasteful view on him. Yet Socrates never cared if he had friends or not. His main goal was to help people discover how little they know and get them to the path of the truth that he believed, that is, the practice of constantly seeking answers. Yet, even when getting these answers, it will still happen that there will be even more questions to uncover and sides that have been unseen. This here to me has applied a very important role in my life as an individual. When I first came to know about this, it made an impression on me that no matter how much I read, how many degrees I get, none of that matters. Because no matter how much I know, it is still insignificant to what is actually there in front of me. The moment I form opinions over certain subjects, whether that be it politics all the way to science, it will stop me and prevent me from seeing concepts from another point of view. Because I have basically completely shunned that point, that other side of viewing things, because I consider that sort of view to be wrong, or to be just pathetic, or to, like, insignificant, to say the least. This to me here is frankly disappointing. And to me, as I am an idiot, I choose to try not to have any opinion of my own, no matter what. My duty is to remain silent and just keep extracting information like a sponge. Whenever I'm forming an opinion in my head, I try to remind myself of my insignificance, of my lack of knowledge, of how little I know, like what Socrates would do to him, to the people around him, by asking these series of questions. So whenever I form an opinion, I actually have this do this form of Socratic method onto myself. You may choose to disagree with me, but hey, for each their own, am I right? To me, knowledge is the most important part of humanity. In fact, the word philosophy translates literally for the love of knowledge. Now, eventually, society had enough with Socrates. Almost the entirety of Athens had known of him, and they had had a huge contempt against him. This led for him to be put into court. He was accused of corrupting the young and making them not believe in the gods, but rather new spiritual beings. Such was his charge. I basically paraphrase this from an extract of the book that was written by Plato, A Dialogue of the Soul, the Phaedo. Now, Socrates lost the trial and probably gave the weakest argument to go against this accusation. But this is not what I want to talk about. You see, even though he was hated by many, it was clear that he also had a huge influence on a lot of people as well. And here, in this final moment, we see Socrates giving his final teaching. He takes the vessel containing poison fearlessly and drinks it like if it were water. And one can infer that he meant to say that death was something to not be afraid of. It was simply another transition that takes place in life. Why fear something that was always meant to come? Whether it is now or an eternity from now, we have to face things head on. Fear is what inhibits us from experiencing things. We fear death. That's why we try to prolong life. Yet, what we do with this life, does that possess any value? No, not really. So, why live in the state of fear? Be shameless when it comes down to what life throws at you. Because it's only when you face the questions which leads you to the statement of cluelessness that learning can happen. This is what Socrates brought to this world. You are already naked. You have nothing to lose. So keep looking and keep learning. Well, that's just my understanding of Socrates, and that's what I have taken from him. And this painting serves to me as a reminder of the fact that I need to that of what I truly believe of being fearless and constantly working, that I might just die just tomorrow. I never know, right? So I truly have a very strong and deep connection to this painting. It's something that truly reminds me of what I should be doing. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the show and see you next week.